your actual Bible, son. Pull out your Bible. All right. Hebrews chapter 11. Still continue on in this. We finished up last week where Abraham was told to go. Abraham, by faith in his fellowship with God, went into a place he knew not where he was going. Basically, God asked him to go out to the desert and just keep walking to a place that he would show him. That place of the unknown. Some of you right now are heading towards that place of the unknown. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what's ahead of you. You just know that God says, I want you to go this direction and keep going until I tell you to stop. Okay? Sometimes that's one of the hardest things for us to do, is whatever God tells us to go, he says, I want you to keep going until I tell you to stop. Where am I going? Don't worry about where you're going. You go like I've asked you to go. It doesn't matter where you're going. In fact, I'm going with you, and I will tell you when you get there. But I'm taking you to a place of promise. I'm taking you to a place that's going to be yours. I'm giving you a new land and new territory. I'm taking you out of this, and I want to bless you. And where I'm taking you. If God has told you to go somewhere, and he's blessing you to go somewhere, he's going to bless you along the way. He's going to sustain you along the way. He will keep you along, no matter what comes, what trial comes. And we see through the life of Abraham that as he traveled, there was times that he was really strong in the faith. There was times he was really weak in the faith. There was times that he forgot God. You can tell by his actions. Just tell the king that you're my sister. I don't want to die. Yes, dear. God sustained Sarah. And still even blessed him on the flip side of it by giving him a whole bunch of wealth on the way out of the city. Even though he fell out of fellowship for that brief moment. And he had to come back and admit to the king, yes, that's my wife. And why didn't you tell me that's your wife? Pharaoh was a little bit upset. Just a little bit. But see, God still blessed him. He shouldn't have blessed him. But even on the flip side of blessing, think about this. Abraham's witness, gone. Completely destroyed at that point for Pharaoh. Because he lost fellowship. So God had to move him on anyway. So even when we lose fellowship, God will still bless us. But there's maybe casualties along the way, but we keep going. We keep going. How many of you ever lost your witness? Because of what you said, what you did, something you've gone through, how many of you lost your witness? It happens. Here's the thing. Don't beat yourself up. Don't tear yourself down. You keep on going. God's promised you that's not the final destination for you. You keep on going. Abraham didn't beat himself up. He kept on going. God made him a promise. God's going to fulfill the promise even when we screw up. There's something you got to remember about fellowship with God. God's going to fulfill his part of the bargain. Even when you decide you can't do it, God's going to fulfill his part of the bargain. Remember when he made the covenant, God walked through it alone? When he made the covenant with Abraham, he put Abraham to sleep. Now I'm going to walk this line because you can. Because I know I'm going to keep my end of the bargain. I'm not going to put my trust in the fact that you're going to do it because I know your flesh. But I will keep my promise to you and bless you. If God has made you a promise, hear me when I tell you this. If you know that God has spoken into your heart a promise, he will fulfill that promise. It may not be when and how you think, but if he's made you a promise, he will fulfill it. But you've got to stay in fellowship with him. You've got to stay in that walk with him to be able to receive the promise. God is faithful to fulfill it, but you've got to be in a place to receive it. This is the other part you've got to realize. You've got to be in a place of receiving to get that. Okay? I'm bringing all this up. You'll see where this is going to tie in just a minute. The children of Israel walked for 40 years. Okay? God with them every day for 40 years, leading them, feeding them, protecting them, giving them light to lead in the darkness, giving them shade to protect them from the elements in the wilderness, giving them everything that they need for 40 years, intimately fellowshipping with them. Yet you still have the whiners and complainers for 40 years. Oh, it'd be better that we died in Egypt than got here in the desert. Why have you brought us out here, Moses? Why did you do this? Keep looking back. Keep looking back. God said, I got a promise for you, a blessing. Keep looking back. Looking back. How many of you keep looking back to where you were and say, man, I wish I had this again, instead of going to the place that God has called you to? It says it's far better than what you ever came out of. You didn't own that. That wasn't yours. That didn't belong to you. That wasn't life. That was slavery. That was bondage. That was the old you. God says, I'm giving you a new you, but you keep looking back to the old you. So much better. How is the old you so much better than what God is promising you in the new you? Can you answer me that question? It doesn't make sense, does it? Looking at the old you compared to the new you that God's promised you. Through fellowship, through the building and developing of your faith in Him, through the continuation of fellowship with other believers to help you in that. He doesn't want you to do it alone. But you keep looking back to the bondage. You keep looking back to that slavery. You keep looking back to those things that held you down. There's nothing but death for you there. That is all that is waiting for you there is death. God sent His Son to bring us life, not death. Give us the hope of life and life everlasting, not death eternal. But we keep looking back. Jesus said, any man that puts his hand to the plow and look back is not worthy of the kingdom. Ouch. You're not going to receive the kingdom. You keep looking back. You're not going to receive the promise. You keep looking back because you're not putting your faith and trust in Him if you keep looking back. You're putting your faith and trust in things behind you. Think of Lot's wife. God just delivered them from utter destruction. But I want to go back. Salt. Because she couldn't keep her eye on the prize that was ahead. That promise that God had made. What happens if we lose fellowship? We lose the connection that we have that keeps us strong. We separate ourselves from that. And we'll use whatever excuse to separate ourselves from that. Oh, I have to work. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that. Whatever excuse you want to put there. Well, Pastor, I can't go today. I've got to work today. This is the day of the Lord. You got to what? Now, I understand from time to time, work, you have to. The ox is in the ditch. You got to get the ox out of the ditch. It's just what you have to do. But at other times, we'll just use that excuse to escape coming before the Lord and dealing with what needs to be dealt with before the Lord. Well, oh, Pastor, I'm tired. Who ain't tired? Who's not dealing with something like that that's going to bring them down? Well, Pastor, you don't say, I got this fishing trip today. I got to go on. I've been planning this for months. You need to be fishing for the Lord. Not fishing to feed your belly. Or is that your God? See, I understand. You put whatever excuse on there. Well, Pastor, you don't say, I got family issues. We don't have family issues. Anybody in this room, I got some family issues. If you start looking deep enough, you're going to find I got family issues. I got some family that would just blow your mind. Ooh. I'm thinking about some of my family. That's kind of funny. Some of the scenarios and situations they've gone through and the different issues that they've had. Some of the arguments that they argue over and have divided over. To me now, because I've decided, you know what? I love them. I want to pray for them, but I am separating myself from them. Because that's the road they want to go on, and more power to them. If they want to do it, let them go. I've been viewed as a holier than thou attitude, or snooty, whatever, snob. No, I've just made a decision for me and my family. Y'all want to go down that path? Have at it. Every one of them has had the chance to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ, and they have refused. What? That's your lot in life. I don't want to be there when destruction comes down. Because the Bible said the companion of fools will be destroyed. I'm not going to companion myself with them to be destroyed. That's silly. How many of you pair yourself up with people that you know the longer you stay with them, the more trouble you're going to be in? Sometimes you just have to let them go on down that road, let them be destroyed. And is that, well, Pastor, that's just hard-hearted. No, it ain't hard-hearted. That's taking care of what God has put in my fellowship. That's taking care of what God has put in my hand to take care of, which is my family, my wife, my kids, the fellowship that God has placed in my hands. Sometimes you got to cut things off. What do you do with a diseased element in your body? You're going to cut it out. You're going to cut it off. Do what you got to do. What? That the rest of it may live. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense is to keep hanging on to those things that are bringing about death. Are you hearing me this morning? How are you getting in my business? I ain't getting in your business. God getting in your business. Deal with it. If God's getting in your business this morning, that's you. You need to deal with it. Because God came to bring you life. He didn't tell you, I want you to keep going back to Egypt and dying. Keep toying with those things that are killing you. Keep fellowshipping with those things that are going to bring you down. That's not what God had planned for you. Whenever He sent His Son to die for you, He didn't plan for you to keep playing with death. That was nailed to the cross. His plan was for you to have life, to live life, an abundant life, full life, blessed life. That doesn't mean rich. That doesn't mean you will have the best health in the world. But there's a fullness that comes in your life when your perspective is right and your fellowship is right with God. You may not have much, but what you do have is more valuable to you than anything in this world. How many of you are there? How many of you are starting to see that idea of that what you do have, though it may be little, is more valuable than anything that this world has to offer? When you start getting that perspective, everything else can go on about its business. Everything else can just keep on going down the road. If it's going to take away from what I got, what God has given me, hey, just keep on going. Same thing in this fellowship. I'm going to fight for this fellowship. I'm going to fight for people in this fellowship. I see ridiculous going on in this fellowship. I'm going to call it for what it is. It's being ridiculous, and I'm going to let you know about it. Some of you got some things going on in your life. You need to cut off and stop dealing with it and let it go. Period. Because it's killing you. It's killing your walk with God. It's killing your family. Little bit by little bit, it's just ebbing away at your family. Don't be stupid and keep playing with that thing. Pastor, you can't be stupid. You are if you keep messing with it. Pastor, I thought you were talking about life this morning. I am talking about life this morning. But I'm trying to get you to wake up, to be revived out of that dead attitude, that death mentality. Oh, it's over. It ain't over until God says it's over. Elijah said, well, God, I quit. You ain't done until I say you're done. It don't work that way. You can keep your notice. You're done when I tell you you're done. Now get up out of this cave. Stop wallowing and wanting to die. I got a plan for you down here. So that's all I want you to do. You're not done until God says you're done. You hear me? You were not done until God says you're done. Your marriage is not done until God says you're done. Your work is not done until God says you're done. Your ministry is not done until God says you're done. Your finances are not over until God says it's over. But here's the thing. You've got to get up out of that crap. Take all of it off. Get back into fellowship with Him. Let Him move in your life. Let Him do what needs to be done in your life. And trust Him to it. Well, I don't like the way He does it. I don't care whether you like the way He does it. He's God. You are not. Get out of the flipping way. Let Him move in your life. Are you tired of going down around that mountain? Are you tired of dealing with the depression, the anxiety, the anger, the stress, and all that ridiculousness that brings you down? Get out of the way. Give it to God. Stop hanging on to it. But I just think I can do so much better with it. You're lying to yourself. How's it working with your fingerprints on it? You ever play that game with Chinga? Where you have to pull the blocks and move the blocks just right? The only person that's ever going to lose in that game is God. Because He can stack do what He wants to, and it's never going to fall. You keep stacking and keep playing and keep meddling and keep pushing and poking and prodding. Your tire falls out and you got to start all over. Get your grubby fingerprints off of it and let God do with it what He wants to do with it, that you can live. Have that fellowship and trust in God. And He's going to build you. He's going to keep you. He's going to sustain you. He's going to hold you. He's going to love on you because He's there. He's not, Pastor, I'm all, you lie to yourself. God said He ain't never going to leave you nor forsake you. You're not alone. He's right there with you. But I'm walking right alone. Chances are you're probably not walking alone. He's probably carrying you. Y'all remember the footprints poem? Well, how come I only saw one set of footprints? That's the time I was carrying you on my shoulders. See, God's not too weak that He can't carry you. See, some of y'all forget that. Y'all think God's in your strength. God's not in your strength. He's in His strength. A lot of times He carries you through situations. You think it's not possible for me to get through. Well, it's possible for you to get through. Are you going to make the choice to trust Jesus to carry you through it? Or are you going to jump ship and try to do it on your own and die in the valley? Or are you going to die in the wilderness? Because remember, for 40 years, those ones that wanted to whine and complain and not put their faith and fellowship in God, their trust in God, died in the wilderness. They died in that place where they kept looking back. They gave up on the promise. But those that were faithful, those that were committed to the cause, got to go in and see. I think of Caleb. Here's this 80, 90-year-old man going back in there and said, well, remember that mountain I saw a few years ago back? I'm going back in. I'm going to take it. This 80, 90-year-old man going up against the Philistine giants and taking my mountain back. That's faith. That's life. How many of you ever met old people like that? They just don't want to die. They've got more life in them. You're thinking, how do you do it at your age? And they're all over the place. Because they found life. And they know what it is to live. Some of us young people know what it is to live. Because we're too caught up in all the ridiculous things. And realize, first of all, we only have one life here. And And you won't get caught up in all the drama and ridiculousness here and miss it. What we have here is a vapor. If you ain't paying attention, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss that time with your family. You're going to miss that time and walk with an opportunity with God that God puts before you as believers. You're going to miss it. It's going to be gone. Because you're too caught up in looking back at Egypt instead of moving forward. Amen?
Amen.
All right. Let me turn on the light because I'm getting prompted to turn on the light. My conscience back here is telling me to turn on the light. We're going to pick up verse 9, where we left off on Wednesday. Talking about Abraham. And again, dealing with his faith. I love this. He says, prompted by faith, he dwelt as a temporary resident in the land which was designated in the promise of God, though he was like a stranger in a strange country, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs with him of the same promise. Where he was going was not his home. He was looking far beyond. How many of you are, again, still caught up with looking here, looking at what you have, and more worried about what you don't have instead of what you do have? See, God had already put in their hearts the home that was coming. So it didn't matter what dwelling place they had, because he'd already put in their hearts what was to come, and their focus and mindset was on that, not where they were, but where they were going. See, overcoming is a process. Well, we're coming back to that too. One thing I forgot about overcoming. Overcoming is a process. You got to look at where you're going, not where you're at. Because if you keep looking where you're at, you're never going to get anywhere. All these people always do this every time they're walking somewhere. They're going to walk right up on a wall and run right into it. That friend of ours, one time we were at an event, walked right into a pole. Ow! And he actually heard that ding that it makes when you walk into it. It was classic. Because they were not paying attention to what was ahead. They were paying attention to what was behind and showing up right in that. Boom! Where's your focus at? Where's your direction? What are you looking forward to? Or are you more worried about what you're going through? You hear me this morning? What are you looking forward to, or are you more worried about what you're going through? Because as long as you're more worried about what you're going through, you're never going to get to what you're going to. You're going to die on the way. The children of Israel were more worried about what they were going through instead of what they were going to, and they died. And that was not the promise God had made for them. God had promised to bless it. Land flowing with milk and honey. A land that was not their own, that was going to become their own. They were to go in and to possess it, to take it. That meant they had to take it by force. It's force if you read through the whole thing. Even though God put it in their hand, they still had to go in and do something. Some of y'all lazy. Uh-oh, Pastor stepping on toes again. Some of y'all lazy. Y'all think God's just going to hand it to you. You think God's just going to sit there, God, put it on the plate. God said, you got to get off your butt, take your plate out there and get it, put it on there yourself. I'll give it to you, but you got to go get it. You may have to get your hands dirty a little bit. You may have to muddy the waters a little bit. You may have to offend some people a little bit. You may have to get out of your comfort zone to get what I'm promising you. But that's not God. It's not. I read over and over again instances where God went in and did some really crazy things that didn't make sense. Offended a lot of people. Because God's not worried about the offense of man. He's worried about his glory. How many of you are too worried about the offense of man instead of God's glory? Some of y'all are more worried about offending man than you are offending God. Y'all offend God over and over and over again. Make what he did on the cross worthless because of your actions. Just so you can make a man happy. Or a woman. You understand what I'm saying? Man's a general term. But you're more worried about that. Come on. Keep looking back at me. I want to make Pharaoh happy. Why? He's killing you left and right. He's taking everything from you. You own nothing. You possess nothing. You work as a slave until you're dead and still have nothing when you die. You have no legacy. You have no life. But you keep looking to Pharaoh for everything. What is Pharaoh? That's sin in your life. The worldly things in your life. You keep looking to Pharaoh instead of looking to God. You compromise with Pharaoh that you can have some semblance and false impression of living. Instead of getting out of Egypt and going with God to the promised land He has for you. What are you looking forward to? Or are you stuck on what you're going through? Verse 10 says, where he was waiting expectantly and confidently. Some of y'all ain't got no confidence this morning. That's the problem. Some of y'all, well, I'm doing good, I'm doing good. And boy, as soon as the waters get a little bit rough or little bumps coming, like, I'm going back to Egypt. Because, oh, it's too tough. going to be people that are going to hate you. People going to try to kill you. It's going to happen. But you can still smile all the way through it because you know where you're going. Paul said, oh, please kill me. Please, do me a favor. I know where I'm going. You wouldn't be hindering me none. Take me out, please. How aggravating is that when you try to put somebody down, oh, please, come on. Come on. And they're excited about it. Like, hey, man. So I had bullies in my life who used to like try to pull crap like that. I'm like, come on. But you know, let's go. Let's go. I'm right here with you. Let's go. What's that? They don't know what to do with that. Especially when you're not angry, you don't respond in anger to them. They don't know what to do with that. It messes with their heads. I like messing with people's heads. See, God likes to mess with your head too because He wants you to get past your thinking to His thinking, that you can be blessed. What are you going to do? How are you going to do? Expectantly and confidently waiting. Do you have the confidence to stand? Do you have that strength of, oh my God, I'm going to fight this thing. I'm going to stand through it no matter what happens? Are you going to fight for the fellowship of believers that you're part of? Are you going to fight for your husband, for your wife, for your kids? Are you going to fight for what you hold most dear? Or are you just going to kind of say, oh well, just let it pass you by? Or are you going to compromise with Pharaoh to the point where you lose everything that you have because you don't want to offend nobody? Because you don't want to take a stand and be firm and rooted and grounded in Christ and still lose everything that you have because you don't want to trust Christ? Or are you going to be confident? See, looking forward to the city, which has fixed and firm foundations, whose architect and builder is God. See, we're moving forward to something that we haven't built, something we haven't touched, something we have nothing to do with except for God. But He wants to bring us to that place. I'm sorry. I don't really care what man has to offer whenever I got someplace that God has prepared for me. Because I know what God prepares is never going to fall apart. I'm never going to have to call Mr. Fix-It. I'm never going to have to deal with anything on it because God has made it. He has formed it with His hands. It's not going to screw up. It's not going to let me down because God's made it. I'd rather keep my eye on that price. Oh man, that's a beautiful mansion that guy built. What guy? I don't know. This is really pretty. I want to go there. You ain't there 10 minutes to find something wrong with it. How many of you go to different places and no matter how pretty it is, you're going to find something wrong with it because it's not your personal taste? Think about it. People, you'll go into homes, you'll go into stores, you'll go into restaurants, you go to different things. Oh, that's nice. Oh, did you see that? It's human nature. I don't like that. I went somewhere yesterday and it was beautiful. I loved it, but I got to look around and say, I really don't really care for this. Yeah, that's all right. It's not what I would do. I was thinking to myself, you know what? It's not mine. It's not really for me to say. It's not really for me to complain about. I ain't got to deal with it. There's no responsibility on me to deal with it. Why am I nitpicking it? Why am I trying to tear it down? And see, God has prepared a place for us, but if we don't view it with the right mindset, we're going to try to nitpick. Well, God, I'm not so sure you did that right. I think that corner's a little off. God, I don't like the color scheme. That color scheme is atrocious. I'm a fall. That's more of a spring. It's just not going to work for me. These color schemes are horrible. You didn't put feng shui in here at all. There's no type of unity here. There's no calm. Because our mindset's wrong. Our perspective is wrong. Our fellowship. We're still looking at the things of Egypt, the things of the world. And God's trying to fulfill us completely and wholly. But we look at our own wants and desires. But we keep looking back to death instead of the life that God has before us. Talking about life. Because of faith, also Sarah herself received physical power to conceive a child, and even when she was long past the age for it, because she considered God. Remember what I talked about considering, taking that time to really think about, dwell on, and weigh out everything. But she considered God, who had given her the promise to be reliable and trustworthy and true to His word. How many of you trust God? How many of you believe Him to be, as it says here, reliable, trustworthy, and true to His word? I see a lot of people doing this. A lot of people say they did. How do you prove it by your actions? You can agree with me all day long. How do you prove it by your actions? Is your walk going to back up your talk? Or, as it were right now, you're not. Is your walk going to back it up? Is your walk going to back up what you're telling me that you believe about God? That He's true, He's trustworthy, He's reliable. You can count on Him. Because when the rubber hits the road and you got to go somewhere, that's going to prove whether you've got your faith in God or whether you don't. That's when it's going to come down to the nitty-gritty. You're going to separate the men from the boys to find out what's what. That's going to come down to your fellowship. And the strength of your fellowship, the committedness of your fellowship to God, to Christ. But see, I like this. Herself had the physical power to receive a child. Physically, we know that Sarah's womb was what? Sarah's womb was dead. There was no life in her womb. That's what they used to refer to. You have a dead womb. Even today, some people will tell you the womb is dead. It's not going to do anything else. It's done. Even though that was the case, even though the physical said, hey, it's done, she believed that God's promise. It took her a little bit. She laughed about it at first, but then she come to realize, wait a minute, no, God's God, He can do what He wants. Had to realize that He can restore life to something that is dead. Maybe you guys got some areas in your life that it's dead. It's past done. It needs to be buried, put in the ground somewhere, put a tombstone on it, live such and such and such and such. It was good once, now it's dead. It served a purpose once, now it's dead. Well, God may have had me there at one time, but now it's dead. If God has started the work, He's faithful to complete that work. It's not dead. Maybe you haven't been feeding. Maybe you haven't put into it what needs to go into it. And allowing God to do what He wants to in your life. Maybe that area for your life for the time seems dead. But you start putting your faith back and trust back in God. He can bring back to life those dead things in your life that you think are too far gone, that are useless, that serve no purpose. But are you going to consider God to be trustworthy, reliable, true to His promise? So some of you are looking at your life and well, my life is dead. He can't do anything with it beyond where it was at. That's not the case. That is not true. If you want to believe that lie, you can go and believe in that lie and die in it. Or you can start looking at the Word of God and trusting in His truth, His promises. Said, no, He's given me life. I'm going to live. And these areas that were dead, that the enemy's come in and made seemingly dead, are going to come back. God's going to restore it. God will bring back to life those things which were dead. So that verse wasn't enough. So from one man, though he was physically as good as dead, there have sprung descendants whose number is as the stars of heaven and as countless as the innumerable sands of the seashore. Who's talking about now? Abraham. He was dead, as it were. Okay? There was no getting things going at that point in his life. He was past that age. Sarah was past her age. Abraham was past his age. There wasn't no babies coming. There wasn't no life springing forth. But God has the power to bring back to life those things which we view are dead. Some of you are looking at your finances. My finances are dead. They're done. Ain't nothing past God being able to resurrect it. God can resurrect the dead. Do you believe that this morning? No, y'all ain't believing it this morning. Why don't you say it? God can resurrect the dead. Do you believe that? We see it over and over again. God can bring the dead things back to life. He can restore dead limbs. But you got to have the faith to reach out and extend that hand. I think about Jesus when He healed the one that had the jacked up hand. There was faith in the fact that, one, Jesus spoke it, but that man had to reach forth his hand. He had to respond to the prompting of God. So some of you are being prompted by God, you're not responding, and you wonder why there's no change. You wonder why there's no difference. God's been saying, hey, no, He's trying to prompt you and trying to get you to go a little bit, trying to stick, but you hold back. You hold back that withered hand. And you're happy with that withered hand. God said, I want to heal that. I want to restore it. It's a dead hand. God said, I want to give it back life. Yeah, I'll hang on to it. Why? Why would you want to only operate at 50% when you could operate at 100%? Can you answer that? That doesn't make sense. But it's going to be your faith and your understanding that God, if He's telling me that He's going to restore it, then I'm going to put it forth and let Him restore it. Now, unless God said it's dead and you need to move on, then you need to wait on the Lord and trust Him and put your faith and fellowship in Him. And let Him do what He wants to do. Because He made you a promise, and if you're looking at the dead things and realizing, oh, it's dead, I can't do anything, and still looking at the life that He wants to bring, that doesn't make sense. He's able to bring the dead back to life. Now, this is something you got to carry with you all of your life. Verse 13. He says, these people all died controlled and sustained by their faith. Some of you are not controlled by your, well, you are controlled by your faith, but your faith is in the wrong thing. They all died and controlled and sustained by their faith, but not having received the tangible fulfillment of God's promises, only have seen it and greeted it from a great distance by faith, and all while acknowledging and confessing that they were strangers and temporary residents and exiles upon the earth. This world is not our home. You may not see it now, but your testimony is going to have far-reaching implications on down the line. The legacy that you leave behind can be that of life, or it can be that of death. The legacy that you set forth, the mentality and the processes that you start now in your life have far-reaching consequences that you may never know. Now, you could have something that starts really well now but dies as soon as you do. Or you can put things into motion now because of your faith in God, your hope and trust in Him, and your walk with Him that are going to reach out far beyond your life and the life of your kids and your grandkids and on down the line. Their faith, their walk, even though they died not actually fully receiving everything, generation upon generation upon generation upon generation, and then they received the fulfillment, which was what? Christ coming. Thousands of years later. But because they kept that faith, they kept their mindset right, they kept their fellowship with God pure and true. So God promised it. I don't know when, I don't know how, not really for me, my concern, but He said He's going to do it, He's going to do it. And I'm going to do my part in the meantime. Even if I never see it with these physical eyes, I'm going to keep on going. Because God's promised it, that's good enough for me. But man, I don't care what man says, God promised. What everyone else says, I don't care what everyone else says. What society says, what this teacher says, or what this book says. I know what this book says. This is the only book I really care about what it says, because I filter everything through this anyway. There's a lot of good books out there that I've read, but I filter it back through this. I don't care how good it is. If it don't line up with this, to me that's rubbish. You know what you do with rubbish? You throw it out. Get rid of it. Do you have that type of faith and fellowship with God that you're going to continue on it, whether you see it with your physical eyes or not? You're going to keep on going, because what God may be preparing may not be specifically for you, but it may be through you that He's working something out for those that are to come. The long haul, as it were. The life that is to come. Because He may be starting something in you that He's going to fulfill down the line. He's faithful to complete the work that He starts. See, we have this idea and concept of work, well, if it's not done in my lifetime. God's infinite. God's eternal. He doesn't work on our time scale. So again, He may be starting something in your life now that wasn't there before, to bring something about for maybe the next generation or the generation after. You don't know. You really, truly don't know what He's doing, but are you going to have the faith? He said, I promise you this. It will happen. I want you to go to the place I will show you. I'm going to bring the dead back to life through you. Bring the dead things that you thought were dead, and I'm going to restore those things to life. Will you follow me? Will you go? Verse 14. Remember what I said? You're going to back up your walk, back up your talk. You got to do it all. It says, now those people who talk as they did show plainly that they are in search of a fatherland, their own country. Do you have a boldness when you speak? Or is there some type of doubt that comes through your voice? You can hear people that doubt what they're saying. You can hear it when they speak. You can hear it when they come out. They're kind of like, wishy-washy. You can just hear it in their voice. There's no confidence in what they're saying. There's no foundation in what they're saying. They're just saying it to feel good. Because I'll start asking questions. I'll start probing them to see where they really are. Because I know that what they're telling me, they don't really believe. They're not really convicted by it. They don't hold true to it. See, your convictions are going to take you a lot further than what you believe. You can believe a lot of things, but your convictions is what's going to drive you. That's what's going to push you to that next level. Because you can believe it, but until it gets in here and becomes a conviction, it's not going to change you. See, the Islamists, they have a deep conviction, not just a belief, but a conviction. They will lay down their life for what they believe. The conviction drives them. Their belief is what sets it, but their conviction is what drives them and pushes them and holds them to that last point where they'll push the button and blow up themselves and all kind of craziness. I wish believers were willing to blow themselves up and start spreading it everywhere. Have that tenacity no matter what comes. If I have to lay down my life for Christ, I'll lay it down. See, Americans make no concept of what it is to lay down our life for Christ. We won't even go to the grocery store anywhere else to talk about Christ because we might offend somebody. We won't talk about it over Christmas dinner because family members might be there that don't know Jesus and we don't want to offend them. Islam, they got it down pat. You know what? You're going to believe it or not believe it. I'm willing to die for it. What about you? And they'll take your life with them. They don't care. They're that deeply convicted about what they believe. We as Christians, if we had that same type of conviction, we turn this world upside down. Not ridiculous to where we bring about death, but where we actually have that mindset we're going to bring about life. Could you imagine what would happen to this world if the Christians would have that same type of convictions that the Muslims have, and instead of propagating death, we start propagating life? Think about what would happen. Let's bring it back to a smaller scale, because that's something that may be too big for y'all to picture. What would happen in your own life if you started propagating life into your marriage, into your finances, into your walk with Christ, into your health, into all these different areas that hold you back, that are bringing about death? If you started putting life into them, you started pouring life into them, the life of Jesus into them, the discipline of Jesus into them, everything about it, the love of Jesus into everything that you do, what would that do immediately for you? What would that do immediately for your relationships if you started pouring that type of conviction into it? That come hell or high water, I will not fall. I will stand for the name of Jesus Christ. No matter what comes against me, I'm going to stand. No matter the price I have to pay, I'm going to stand. The Bible says when you've done all that you can do, stand. Like God did, He does. Will you? Do you have that conviction that when you talk, people truly believe you? Verse 15. If they had been thinking with homesick remembrance of that country from which they were immigrants, they would have found constant opportunity to return to it. Here's the truth. Here's reality. If you keep looking for a reason to go back, you won't find it. You keep looking for a reason to keep dealing in that area of death in your life, you will find it. It's out there long enough, you keep looking, you won't find it. Just to satisfy you, to make you happy. You keep looking hard enough, you won't find what you're looking for. If your eye is constantly back here, you're going to find what you're looking for. Death. You're going to find that bondage that God brought you out of. You're going to find that. And I hope you're happy with it when you do. Pastor, that's not very nice. I'm not trying to be nice this morning. I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to be truthful with you. Because I want to see you live. I want to see you have life. I want to encourage you to press on beyond what you're feeling to what you know to be true. Because again, your feelings will deceive you. Sometimes you're feeling, well, I just can't go. You can go further. You can keep taking that next step after. You don't know the opposition I face. Yes, I do. I face that opposition every time I get out of bed. Every time I go to sit down and study. Every time I go to have a conversation with my wife. Every time I have to deal with different things that come my way, I deal with opposition all day long. There are times that I slip and take a step back. There's other times, man, I take leaps forward. But my eye is constantly on the prize, not on what I'm here, what's going on right now. It's taken me a long time to get to that place. I was saved to Christ when I was 8 years old. And I've gone through a lot of crap in between. But I realized I remember where I was going. And God reminded me when I walked away one night, He said, I'm still here. You get done with your mess, and I'm still here. And you get done walking in what you want to walk in, I'm waiting for you to come back and walk with me again. So some of you guys trying to tell you, hey, I'm still here waiting on you to come back and start walking with me. And stop all this foolishness and walking back to Egypt. You're going the wrong direction. And you're telling God, well, God is dead. It's a dead issue. It's done. There's no hope. God's saying, I am the hope. I am the resurrection and life. Some of y'all need to get that this morning. Y'all need to start realizing that your fellowship with God is more crucial to you than anything in this life. Your fellowship with other believers is more vital to you than anything else in this life. Whether it's this fellowship or whatever fellowship that you decide to attend, that is more vital to you than you realize. Forsake not. Don't just let it go. Don't just forget about it. It's not important. It doesn't matter. It does matter. And if it didn't matter, look at the state of affairs in your life when you are walking in fellowship and when you're not. If it didn't matter, there'd be no change. It does matter when you can look at it, you can pinpoint it and say, yeah, it does matter. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about this morning. Exactly what I'm talking about. What if they won't go with me? Don't worry about it. You keep on going. Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. You keep following Christ. If Paul jump ship, you keep on going. Let him swim out there in the ocean alone. Keep looking back, you'll find it. Keep looking forward, you're going to find it. Verse 16. But the truth is that they were yearning for and aspiring to a better and more desirable country. That is a heavenly one. For that reason, God is not ashamed to be called their God, even to be surnamed their God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For he has prepared a city for them. Let it be said that he'd be the God of Stephen, the God of Carissa, the God of Laura, Think about that. That it would be said of. That is the God of. And you can put your name there. He's not ashamed. Did all these men have issues? Yes, every one of these men had issues. Did all these men screw up? Oh yeah. Every one of those men screwed up in their walk, in their fellowship. But there was a heart change. There was something deep inside them that kept pressing them on towards that prize. God said, I'm not ashamed of them. But God, you know they screwed up, yeah. But my son's blood covered that. The promise that was to come was through me, not through you and your ability. I'm not ashamed of them. Some of you are thinking God's ashamed of you. God loves you. He sent His Son to die for you, that you may live. He sent His Holy Spirit to indwell in you, to give you power and authority and strength and wisdom, discernment. That He's always with you. Now you can choose to walk out on your own and He'll let you. He'll let you put your hand on that hot stove and get burned. But He's also right there to take it back and heal it. Because He loves you. He wants to bring you life, not death. And you think that God's trying to destroy you, might be trying to destroy the worldly you. But He's trying to bring about the Christ-centered you and bring it to life. To bring it to blessing. But will you trust Him? Even if He calls you to die, will you trust Him? Will you have the faith of believing that if He calls you to die, but He's made you a promise, that He's going to complete that promise? That He's going to fulfill that promise in and through you somehow, some way. Will you have that kind of faith? Is your fellowship and walk with Him that strong to believe that, God, you promised me this. You're asking me to do this. I don't get it, but you promised you're going to make it happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but you promised, God. It's okay to remind God, because reality is you're reminding yourself. God hasn't forgotten. But you're building your own faith by doing so. God, you promised. And I'm going to trust your promise. No matter what comes, I'm going to trust your promise. Whether I see it in my own hands or my own eyes or not, God, I'm trusting your promise. Now think again about those parents that pray for years for their kids. That's one of the, I used to think was that, why would you keep praying for them? Until God releases you, you keep praying. But some of them pray for their kids for salvation 30, 40 years. And finally their kids come to salvation. That's conviction. That's steadfast faith saying, you know what, God, you promised me my kids were going to serve. I may not see it this year, next year, the following year, but you promised me they were going to serve. I'm going to keep praying. You said they were going to be saved. God, I'm going to keep praying. And see, some of y'all ain't from the Pentecostal background, so you don't know what I'm talking about. See, some of the from the Pentecostal background, we allow God to speak. God makes promises. We hold true to those promises when God speaks to us. But listen. We remind God, God, you said, you promised me. And I'm going to tell you, God, you promised me. And then they get to tell their testimony. Yeah, God told me when I was this age, my kid was going to do this, this, and this. And it took 40 years, but God did it. And they stand up and they were excited about it. What God did. Did it take a while? Yeah. Did they worry about the price that was paid between the time he said it till the time it happened? No. It was a sacrifice they were willing to make to honor God. Noah, 120 years. God said, hey, build. Okay. He's building. Family's building. Because his sons at some point had to jump in and start hammering too, right alongside Dad. They were getting ridiculed and everything else. They were building. Wives out there helping along the way. Everybody ridiculing them. Everybody. It's 120 years. 40 years is nothing compared to the time of 20 years. And they come home. God said, do it. Okay, we're doing it. God promises what's going to happen. It's going to rain. They don't get the concept. That's just crazy. But we're going to do it. God may have told you something you think is absolutely crazy. But if he told you it's going to happen, you stick with it. You stay the course. Fly. A couple more verses and we're done. By faith, Abraham, when he was put to the test, while the testing of his faith was still in progress. Some of y'all's testing is still in progress. Had already brought Isaac for an offering, who had gladly received and welcomed God's promises, was ready to sacrifice his only son, of whom it is said, though through Isaac shall your descendants be reckoned. For he reasoned that God was able to raise him up, even from among the what? What does that say? From the dead. Some of y'all are worried about things happening in your life, and you see it coming to an end. God's able to resurrect from the dead if need be, if he's made you a promise. It may not be the way you plan on it. You see, that type of reasoning. But see, here's reality. It says, indeed, in the sense that Isaac was figuratively dead, potentially sacrificed, he did actually receive him back from the dead. Think about that. By all rights, because God said go sacrifice, Abraham already counted his son was done. God said sacrifice. God didn't tell him anything else. You go here, you sacrifice your son here. That's all God told him. He promised that through Isaac there would be many generations, but then God tells him, I want you to go sacrifice him. Alright. If you're going to kill him, you got a reason for it. You bring him back. You got to. Because you made a promise, God. You can't go back on your promises. So if you kill him, you got... See, some of y'all don't even reason. You don't even use the sense that God gave you to think, wait a minute. God made me this promise, but he's having me do this. Okay, he's going to make it happen somehow. I have that faith to go. All right, I'm going to the mountain. Come on, son, let's go. He has the power to resurrect the dead. If he's made you a promise, but he's asking you to lay something down, maybe he's telling you to lay it down so you can trust him with it. So while his testing of his faith was still in progress. Some of y'all think, well, my testing phase is done. No. Your testing phase is not done. As long as you have breath in your lungs, your testing phase is not done. God's going to continually be growing you and making you more like his son. See, these testing phases bring about strength. These testing phases bring about stability and assurance in God. Think about how strong Abraham's faith must have been at that point whenever he along the way said God will provide himself a sacrifice. All the way, he kept telling someone that. Because you know Isaac at some point said, wait a minute. Got the wood, got the stuff to make fire, got everything to build the up. Hey, Dad, where's the sacrifice? Well, that's you, son. Hey, what? Think about this. Isaac wasn't a little... Isaac was a young man. Wasn't stupid. Raised knowing God. Realizes, wait a minute. What? I'm the sacrifice? Okay. His faith also was in God, even though he was the sacrifice. Because his dad said, well, my dad said that God would provide a sacrifice. If that's me, then so be it. See, some of you are selfish. You're not willing to sacrifice yourself if God asked you to. Pastor, what are you trying to say? If God asked you to sacrifice yourself and He made you a promise, He's able to bring you back. See, there's a different side of you that He's trying to bring back. Maybe some things in your life you do need to kill off. Maybe you do need to sacrifice it and lay it down and let it die. Maybe God's trying to bring about a life in you, a true life that is blessed, that is anointed of God, that is full of power, that is full of God's glory. Because again, think about the faith. What a leap it was that whenever they got there and Isaac was getting ready to lay down, he goes, whoa, hold on. Did good. He did good. And look over here. Provided a sacrifice for you. Think about Isaac's faith at that point. Realizing here's Dad the whole way there saying, God's going to provide a sacrifice. Really, he gets to, wait a minute, I'm sacrifice? Hold on a second. How does that work out? And God stays the hand of Abraham. Looks over. And there's a ram caught in the thistle to be provided as a sacrifice. We know ultimately that typifies Christ being made Himself the sacrifice for us, that we may have life. And God provided the sacrifice and say, you know what? I can provide life wherever I choose. But will you trust me to go even to the end, to that point? Even if it's that point of death, will you go with me? Knife in hand on the way down. Will you trust? When all is lost, in your mind, will you still trust God's promises to be true? If He's promised life, will you trust Him to be true to that? Will you consider God to be trustworthy, reliable, and true to His word to bring about life? Because that is what He wants for you. That is the fellowship of believers, is life. The resurrection of the dead. Because what were we before we came to Christ? We were dead in our sins. We were dead in our trespasses against God. But God came to bring us life. To bring us life abundant, full, joyous, victorious, overcoming. So y'all gonna get this by the time we get through this year. Yeah, some of you, it'll be like December 31st this year. I got it! I hope some of y'all get it sooner than that. Okay? Some of y'all are going to start, wait a minute. Maybe what Pastor was saying is true. I'm going to start walking in that victory that God's promised me. I'm going to start walking in that authority that God has given me. I'm going to start walking in that confidence that God is who He says He is. He's going to do what He said He's going to do in my life. He's bringing back the dead things in my life that I thought were dead, were beyond hope, but He made a promise to me in these areas, and He's going to bring it back to life. My marriage was dead, God's going to bring it back to life. My finances was dead, He's going to bring it back to life. My fellowship with some of my family members was dead, He's going to bring it back to life. Because of my fellowship with Him. And I'm trusting Him because He's made this promise to me. And I'm going to hold true to it till my last breath on this earth. My kids are going wayward from me. I'm going to trust God. Because God made a promise to me that my kids would one day serve. I'm going to hold on. That my spouse would be saved. That my friends would be saved. My siblings would be saved. He made a promise to me, and I'm going to hang on till the end. And I'm going to keep seeking God. I'm going to keep trusting God. I'm not going to walk away from God when it gets tough. I'm not going to leave the fellowship when it gets tough. I'm not going to leave the fellowship of believers when it gets tough. At that point in time, I'm going to hang on even tighter. Because that's what God's calling me to do. That's what He would want me to do. And I'm going to press in and press on, looking forward to what I'm going to, not what I'm going through, trusting God. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Let's give us a gospel glory this morning. Let's stand up. We go get Melissa back in here.